Hello, everybody. Happy 5 o'clock. It is a Friday. How you doing? What's up? I'm drinking. I got a nice little IPA over here from Hop Valley. It's an Alphadelic IPA, 7.2%. And I think it's got a 90 IBU. Yes, it does. Very hoppy, very yummy, very sweet and bitter at the same time. And I got a tablet in the mail. It was a bitch to get started. Had to get an IT guy to help me kind of figure it out. But, success, life does go on. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff going on. Like, Rip the Falcon was a comic that I made in about a year ago. And right after that, I published 2 cartoons back to back. And so, it's going really well right now. Like, it's going great. I wanted to do kind of like a retrospective because not only is the animation doing well, it got second place in a film festival for my last episode, Hotel California, which is to this date my favorite thing I've made. But also, I got my comic book in a print run, and I got it to be regularly stocked in a record store that I've been going for about 15 years. So I'm just like on Rip the Falcon mode right now. I'm like freaking stoked. And I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of give you a little bit of a retrospective, a little bit of a story time about how Rip started and what Rip really had become. And so I wanted to kind of do like a little special. So sit down, listen up, and let me take you back to 2008. In 2008, I was a senior in high school. I was in an art class, and we had to do a drawing final. And I ended up doing a symbolic drawing, and it was a falcon. I wanted to do something that represented me. And, I was really enamored with peregrine falcons, and that just came out of me. And when it did, it sort of kickstarted the genesis of this character. Like, I looked at that art that I made, and I knew I had to make this a character. And it was something. I didn't know what it was at first. It was like, at first, I had this bird that I wanted to make a cartoon character out of. But the story went through so many changes that, it just collected all this information from 2008 until 2020. And by 2020, I was like, okay, it's time. My art is good enough. I have enough written down. Let's do this. And then I proceeded to just go. I was always kind of scared. I felt like Rip the Falcon was this story that was so much that I couldn't start it. And I don't know if writers have this issue where they have so much in their brain that they don't know where to begin. And honestly, I didn't really know either. But in 2020, I just decided, okay, now is the time. I'm just going to start. And my first page that I drew officially for Rip the Falcon issue 1 was unplanned. I didn't thumbnail it. I didn't script it. For a lot of issue 1 of Rip the Falcon, the first story that I officially made, it was just kind of play it by ear. I wrote a short story that was kind of to the roots of what the character was about. And a lot of it was just kind of like fly by the handle. No pun intended. And it came out, honestly, one of my favorite things I wrote. And at the time, it was the best thing I drew. And every single time I drew something that in the last 2 years, it seemed to be an improvement. And I think it had a lot to do with that first story, the Rip the Falcon story, because, I set the bar, like this is the standard. And, when it started, it was like a typical fantasy. You could replace it with Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it would be the same character. It would be the same story too. And it's funny to me, but if you take away certain characters and swap them out, it's almost like every other cartoon is the exact same cartoon. It's just Avatar happened to be really good. But that was basically what it started as. And the longer I spent time building up the world and building up the character and kind of having my own unique flavor on things, it turned into sort of a pseudo-Western Kill Bill, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly kind of world. And it became a lot darker, a lot more adult. I actually had conversations with a friend of mine about how it went from that. It used to be kind of like, almost family friendly to like now it's like Rip in episode 2 Hotel California, he stabs a woman in the face, and she's trying to kill Rip. Like it was justified, but it was violent. It was really violent. And that's just what happened. Like, it went from that. It went completely adult. And I think a lot of it had to do with what I wanted to say. The story of Rip the Falcon is almost like, a way for me to write whatever I want. It's basically an opportunity for me to just go into these deep subjects and just write stories that, to me, in a fantasy setting, I can explore. Like I think that Rip is like this world that reflects society, and he's like the straight man in a world that doesn't make any sense. And granted, he's definitely not your typical person, but he's trying to be. And that was always the kind of focus with Rip the Falcon. He was always aimed to be kind of like just trying to survive. And that's the whole point of the show, is just trying to survive. And it really changed over the years, from going to being, saving the world and making friends and leveling up and being more powerful and having a finale. And now the story is open-ended and can almost take place in any other order. And it's just so much more introspective. The stories that I have planned for the rest of the show so far get into some very dreamlike and introspective subjects. And I think that it's similar to the Sandman. Not saying that it copies the Sandman, but it definitely feels like that level of maturity. And it's just funny to me how a character like that you've had for years on end just kind of turns into themselves. Like he started off making jokes, making one-liners, and being like Sonic, basically, to now he's like almost like Clint Eastwood a little bit. Like Fistful of Dollars Clint Eastwood. And he's doing really well right now. I mean, the show is doing well. The second episode analytics show that it's doing way better than episode 1. And the episode 1, by the way, is almost at 1,000 hits, which is great by my numbers. So, that's no slouch. It's got a good track record. It's on Amazon Prime. People enjoy it. And, I think that it is going to get very, very interesting. I think that, he is a character that I'm probably going to stick around with, at least 20 years. At least. Like, I want to give it at least that much time. And, it's doing critically well, already I have sold like 5 copies of the comic locally, and it's going to be something that I'm going to be selling on like conventions and things like that. And I just felt like it would be a good podcast to kind of sit down with you guys and give you kind of like a little history on what this character meant and like where he came from. He went from humble beginnings to being like every other cartoon character from the 1990s, and that's still relevant in the art style. Like, if you pay attention to the animation, it's done like a 90s show. So in a way, it's still kind of like from its roots, but it got a little bit more mature. So, that was my quick little history lesson. My Rip the Falcon lecture. So, hope you guys are having a good weekend. I am really excited for Sky Titans coming up. That should be coming up real soon. And I got plans to work with musicians. I have a project with Mr. 8 from Joker TV, and that is coming up real soon. And I think this year has been a little bit all over the place. Took a while to get going, but we're getting speed. We're getting momentum again. We took kind of like a pause for about 6 weeks. But, I think that we're going to go steady. So you guys have a good one. I'll see you next time. And I'm signing out. Peace.